left, right.
Hey, if you're watching this, thank you so much. It means a lot to me that you guys are even tuning in. We've actually really picked up production. We're doing 2 Sip Talks a week, which I enjoy, but we're also doing it because of you guys, and I appreciate you all watching, liking, and subscribing. Got a small audience right now, but it is growing. If there's somebody you'd like to hear about, let me know in the comments. Any ideas you have for future episodes, let me know in the comments. Shoot me a DM, shoot me a text, shoot me an email. All my information is below. But most importantly, if you're watching this, please, please, please like this video, subscribe, share it, at least one of the 3. Couldn't hurt, and it would mean a lot to me. So thank you very much. This is Sip Talk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Of course, it's fun.
Cheers.
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 And we are like, what do you got to drink over there?
So I'm going with a refrigerated Milwaukee's Best Ice this time, but with
With a coolie on it?
yeah, I got this for my time in bartending. I only have one koozie, and I really like this one. I'd rather be drinking Jim Beam.
So you're drinking the Beast. I'm gonna pour some scotch. That as you got ready, I waited a long time for, I guess, this ice cube to thaw out. Actually, I got another one too.
No, I've got those the spherical ice cubes.
How are they?
I've got 2 of those, and depending on how quickly this beer goes, maybe I'll switch to the bourbon and an ice ball.
A bad idea. I like the round ice. I like the square ice. You know, you saw at home. I have a giant block of ice. It's like 2 feet by about 10, maybe 12 inches.
Yeah,
And
the
I
ice
chip
bag.
away at it. I'm waiting for that
I've
ice
got
pick.
the molds for like the big cubes of ice too, for the big square cubes.
Yeah, I just like being able to play around with ice, but I do like kind of the free form ice that you can get right out of the block. I'm gonna pour some scotch up. But
One
yeah,
thing
let's
I want
get
to
right
learn how
into
to
it.
do is I want to learn how to make the perfectly clear ice, which is it can be tough to do because you got to do like directional freezing on it.
I wouldn't know where to start. So look, let's get into it, because after our last podcast last Thursday, I actually went home and I watched this Olympic video about these Olympic athletes that were committed suicide, and I'm just going to share with you my perspective on this, because it was really a sob story about somebody who was writing a book, and kind of the nail in the coffin was that one of his friends from the Olympics committed suicide, and he's like, all right, this is it. It's an epidemic. This is happening. Lots of Olympic athletes committing suicide. And I ran the numbers. I don't have them down in front of me. I wrote them on one of these yellow notepads. I left it on the dining table. I meant to grab it. But what I did was I took the suicide rate in the regular population, and then I took the suicide rate in the Olympic population. And out of the regular population per 1,000, there's a much higher instance of suicides than there are in the Olympic population per 1,000. So actually, Olympians are less likely to commit suicide based off these statistics.
But that doesn't make as good of a story.
But it doesn't make as good of a story. But again, that's why I was so frustrated with this issue about the Olympic athletes supposedly having such a high suicide rate because of the stress that they're under. And I know you want to talk about negotiating techniques, but when it comes to negotiating excellence, if you want to be excellent, and by excellent, I mean within the 1%, truly kind of pinnacle at whatever it is that you're doing, being excellent involves a certain amount of sacrifice amongst other areas.
No, a lot of other areas.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to be uber rich and excellent with work or something like that, you're sacrificing a lot of socializing time. You're sacrificing family time. If you want to be an elite athlete, or if you want to be in elite excellent physical condition, you're sacrificing when it comes to diet. You're not eating fucking cake and fucking candy bars. You're probably not eating a lot of regular food.
Well, and also you're sacrificing a ton of time because if you want to be in elite athletic shape in whatever discipline it is, it really you got to be putting in probably 10 to 15 hours a week at least
Yeah.
into whatever that is.
10 to 15 hours a week is not a lot of time, especially, if you're driven by excellence. But what I'm saying is,
That's the bare minimum. If you want to be elite, it's probably more like a full-time job.
I would say so. When I watch documentaries about people who are excellent, they're like, you wouldn't believe it, but he also had to work a part-time job doing this or that. Well, his full-time job is being excellent. Then that's, obviously he's sacrificing a different full-time job. And with the Olympic suicides and just talking about the amount of stress, I think that's kind of what you sign up for. Unless it's like an overparenting type issue where, your
that
father
certainly exists.
Exactly. Or your father just keeps you out in the backyard with the doors locked to shoot fucking free throws. Like that's a bit different. You're kind of forced into the stress, and then a lot of people rebel, and I don't know. That wasn't what happened to me. The door was wide open for us to go in and play video games and not be stuck outside. Much time as we did spend outside. But yeah, that was just, my negotiating excellence. When it comes to negotiating, you're making a sacrifice. And that's, I don't think that's, widening anybody's eyes when they say, Olympic athletes sacrifice a lot. No shit.
Yeah, I just think that your initial characterization of these Olympic athletes being too mentally weak to handle a defeat at the Olympics or whatever causing suicide, I think that judgment, I think you should revisit that. I think that was erroneous.
Where you think I was too harsh where I said somebody comes in fourth place or somebody gets a bronze and, and now they feel hurt.
Yeah, I think that was a bit too much.
I will accept your argument there, and but committing suicide because you came in second place. I don't know.
I think that there's going to be significant underlying issues, and that's not going to be the proximate cause.
Oh God. But you want to talk about negotiating because I'm curious where you want to take this, because obviously I negotiate all day long, and I watch people negotiate all day long, which I believe gives me an upper hand when it comes to actually negotiating, because I understand how people negotiate, and I watch a lot of people fail to be successful because of the way they negotiate.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up as a topic, is because you're coming at it from a different angle than I am, but it's something that I put a lot of practice into, and I've gotten pretty good at. But I'm kind of on the other side of the table from you in terms of negotiating a lot of times.
But what side of the table are you on?
Well, I'm usually going to be either the employee or the advocate, the consumer, whereas you're the business. Now, sometimes you're doing it the other way, where you're trying to negotiate a lower rent with a landlord or something to get a deal through. So you're kind of playing both sides, but very rarely am I on the side where I'm the one having to kind of give something up to get to where I want to go. I'm trying to get the other side to give something up.
That's funny that you mention it like that. I didn't think about playing both sides of the negotiation, but actually, now that I think about it, I am a terrible negotiator when it comes to me negotiating for myself on the consumer end. And I think probably because I can relate so tightly to the rationale of the salesperson. When I bought my last bike, I paid sticker price. Like, I'm like, is there anything free I can get? And he's like, well, no, we can give you a discount to buy some stuff. Like, wait, so now I got to spend more money? Wait, I'm already in this negotiation. Yeah. Wait, so me to try to get a deal at something actually is going to end up
doing for me.
And I was like, nah, that's fine. Here's a card. Just, you gotta, I'll take what I can get.
Back when I was bartending,
what are you negotiating as a bartender?
No, let me just tell the story.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So back when I was bartending, I would start my shift between 3:30 and 4, and I would have CNBC on because I'd like to see what the stock news was for the day, to see how terrible my portfolio was doing. And I would just leave that TV on CNBC near the bar. And so then it would get busier in the evening. I'd forget about it. And later on in the evening, Shark Tank would come on.
Okay.
And it was actually a great show to have on at the bar because we'd have the subtitles on so you could follow what they were talking about. But you have a good mix of some people that have really good business ideas and some people that have just terrible ideas. But it always gets a conversation start at the bar because if things get slow, you can just point to the TV and be like, hey, man, you think that this person is ever going to be able to get $1 million for this idea? And then you can watch. And one of the things that you see in Shark Tank is negotiations. And you see both good and bad.
Okay,
And
fair enough. Yeah, I would say there's a lot of negotiating.
that's basically what the entire show is when it comes down to it. Is here's my idea. I think it's worth this. You're going to want to pay less than that. I need to convince you to pay me what I say it's worth. And so I saw a couple people on there break some very cardinal rules. But basically, I've got a few rules that if you go into a negotiation with these in mind, you're going to do a lot better than if you hadn't thought about it ahead of time.
Okay,
And
so
I wrote these down. Let me just hit the bullet points, and then we can talk about them one by one.
How many are there?
Like 5 or 6.
5 or 6 bullet points of negotiation from which perspective, or either?
Either.
All right.
So the first one is know more than the party that you're negotiating with. Do your research and understand the topic.
Okay, I agree.
Number 2, negotiate from strength. There's a difference between negotiating versus begging. You have to have something that you're bringing to the table that the other party wants.
Is this still the second one?
No, this is point 2.
All right. So negotiate, don't beg.
Right. Point 3. Have 3 numbers in your head. Have these established before you go into the negotiation. What you're going to lead out with your number. What's your lead out? What's what you actually want, and what's the number below which you walk away.
You're walking. All right.
Okay. Next one, don't negotiate with yourself.
Ooh, I like that one so far the best.
Next one, identify what the other party wants and what their options are. This kind of ties into the research thing, but you've got to be able to look at what's going on the other party's side to understand what they're really looking for so that you can match your tactics to meet that. And then the last one is just 2 more. Don't negotiate in bad faith and use silence to your advantage.
Okay. I like the 3 number. Okay. So just to sum this up, well, not even touch a little bit more on it. When it comes to negotiating, the first one that you gave me was the first negotiating tactic that I came up with, that I thought about when we started talking about negotiating, and that's know more than the other party, or know as much as possible.
Yes.
You may not know more than the other party, but you need to come to negotiation educated.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell all of my clients when they come to the table, they want to negotiate, especially when it comes to broker fees, what their other options are. And I basically want to make sure that they know what their other options are as well. But it's important for me to know what they believe their other options are, which I think, kind of helps me when I'm formulating my angle of the negotiation on my end. I know what their expectation is from me and from the market. If they think they have 1,000 other options, then I need to start whittling away at their other options. And if I realize I can't compete, then I'm going to bow out. But I'm not going to try to fight for something I'm not going to be able to get. When it comes to buying a car, I think in New York almost everything's negotiable. I've been into a lot of bodegas and stores like that where if you're paying cash, they'll cut you a deal. I negotiate a lot of days on my lunch. When I buy a shake, something like that, I'll negotiate on. When I was new to the city, I used to negotiate with the hot dog guys who wanted to sell me a Gatorade for $3. Most of the time, I could get it for $1. I'd be like, oh, I only have $1 on me. Never mind, I'll find another guy. And they'd be like, no. How much? Because
their cost on the Gatorade's 50 cents. They're still making money.
It's probably less than 50 cents. Exactly. With the sodas, they're paying 20 cents a soda. So, I like that know really as much as possible when you're coming to the table to negotiate. You may not know that if you know more than the other party, but knowing as much as possible is definitely important.
And the important thing is, don't lay out all the information that you have all at once. It's you trickle out the information that you have as needed to meet the objections of the other party.
Yeah. So I'll give kind of a real life example and kind of walk you through it. I show somebody 4 or 5 apartments, or even an agent that shows somebody 4 or 5 apartments. They decide they like an apartment, they want to come back and apply. Before I hit them with the broker fee, because the disclosures up here say that we typically charge 15%, but we are negotiable. And of course we are. We get 15% on a lot of deals, although we actually, most of the time, we're getting a 15% of the annual rent. So if it's a $2,000 apartment, the annual rent is $24,000. We're collecting $3,600. That's only worth it if the apartment's a very good value at $2,000 a month. So if I know there's lots of other 2,000 is like impossible apartment to find below Harlem, first off. So if it's an apartment that's in Midtown or downtown or Upper East or Upper West, I'm probably getting 15% or close to that. I know that because I know right off the bat that there's not a lot of other options. So if I'm going to hit that person with 15%, somewhere along the lines of the showing, I'm going to find out what else they're looking at. And if they're telling me they're looking at a whole bunch of other apartments, especially if they tell me they're looking at no-fee apartments, I'm going to try to show them some no-fee apartments. Or I'm going to figure out what they're looking at that isn't really an option. This one is 80 blocks out of the area they want to be in. Or this one is a 6-story walk-up. I'm going to do my research on the other options that they have. And then if I've done that through the building of rapport, I've done that through the showing, I've done that through my time with them, and that 15% hits the table and they give me pushback on what I'm asking for, I'm then going to hit them with, what are your other options? And if that person knows they have other options, great. I'm probably going to negotiate down, especially if they hit me with options that I wasn't prepared for. Yeah. But I want to at least be able to provide them those options also while they're with me.
Well, and that also goes to show that depending on how much work and research the person trying to buy an apartment from you has done, that increases their negotiating leverage with you.
Yeah, as much research as they've done. However, what I find most of the time is people come to the table and they think they have 86 options because when they do a search on Street Easy or Zillow or wherever, they think there's 85 other options. And what I need to do at that point, is
you do?
I just knocked over some stainless steel coffee cups and they just came crashing down.
Could have been worse.
Could have been glassware. That would have been tragic. But I'll look at their other options. I say, well, let me know what else you have. I want to make sure I'm giving you a good deal. Obviously, my bottom when it comes to broker fee is 0. But I also know that we have to run a business. So we have somebody offering us half a month of rent. I'm going to let that person walk because I'm not going to do that deal. And they signed on that apartment with me. So if they choose to rent that apartment, it's going through me. There's lots of other options they can find. And, I offered them a better deal. I offered them a student discount and and now we're getting to the point where the landlord's offering to pay some money too. But, and we've given them 12 other options. And that's out of the 40 or so options that we were originally looking at. So, but I just think when it comes to negotiating, you just can't walk in not knowing anything.
Right. And a very quick one for me is back when I was working in hotels, after my first year there, I had my meeting with the manager of the hotel and they were talking about a raise and she offered me a raise and I said, all right, that's too low. She said, well, that's our standard raise. And I said, yeah, but that's not what the market's paying. And she says, are you sure about that? And I had been doing, every night auditors will call around to other hotels to see what the rates and occupancy are of other hotels in the same market. So I was in a luxury hotel. So every night I would call 6 or 7 other hotels and just say, hey, we were at 90% last night at 475. What were you guys? And they would tell me.
$475 a night for a Charleston hotel?
Oh, dude. Yeah, when I was working at the Wentworth Mansion, it was usually our average rate was like 480 to 490 a night across the whole hotel.
Holy shit. How big are these rooms? Because I know New York City rooms are they're like studio apartments. They're really small.
Average size of the rooms was like 500 to 600 square feet.
Shit, man. That's like an apartment here. That's not bad.
It was a nice hotel. I liked working there. But what I had been doing is by making these call arounds every single night, I'm building relationships with other night auditors, some of whom I'm still friends with today. And when it was coming time for my annual meeting with the manager, beforehand, I had been talking to the other night auditors. I had said, hey, just out of curiosity, how long have you been there and about how much are you making? And they tell me, because what do they care? And when my manager came back with her offer, I said, that's not what the market's paying. This is what the market is. And she said, all right, I'll do some call arounds and I'll see. And instead of giving me the raise that she wanted to, she gave me a raise that was about 3 times higher.
No, that's not bad. But there you go. That's negotiating a pay increase. I get people trying to negotiate a pay increase right off the bat. Like they come in and they want a higher commission, and really, I just think that's them undervaluing the platform that we've set up for them to do deals, because they don't understand that that it costs money to do this, but also they're overvaluing themselves. And I say that because they don't understand my perception of their value. When they haven't closed any deals, or they've closed 1 or 2 deals, I even tell people when I hire them, they don't like the commission splits. I'm like, all right, so here's what our numbers need to look like at the 12-month point. If you're on par for that 2 or 3 months in, let's talk again. But until you're on par for that, I can't pay you what that person's getting. It's not fair to that person.
Right, but let's say you had somebody let's say you had an agent come from a different brokerage, and they actually had a track record where they said, here's what I was able to do with this other brokerage. For whatever reason, I'm leaving there. I want to join your team. And they can verify in some way.
Okay, so here's how my negotiation would start. We offer all new agents 50%, and in 12 months, we'll reevaluate you. And they say, well, and I'll gauge their body language. If they're like, oh, okay, cool, that sounds good to me. I'm like, okay, great, let's sign. And they're like, well, I'm not sure. I'm like, well, what's the holdup? Now, if I gauge their body language, I can tell like they're not cool about it. I'll say, yeah, I'm sure you're expecting more. What if we reevaluate at 6 months?
And what I would say is, if I'm that agent, I'd say, look, at my old brokerage, I was getting 65.
Sure, but now we're negotiating. Now we're actively negotiating. And I'm not going to start at what they're getting.
Right, but I'm going to say I was starting at 65. I wasn't happy there. I want to join your team. Instead of the 50 that you're offering, look, I got a track record here. I can give you the numbers if you want. I'm not asking for 65 because that's what I was getting before. Let's call it 60.
Okay, great. But guess what? And I see this happen all the fucking time. So you're like, I'm getting 65 over there. And I go, not a problem. And then you go, well, I was getting 65 over there. I really like you guys, but I need to be incentivized. I need 70. That's why I can't start. That's why I can't start at 65.
Right, but what I'm saying is you're starting at 50, and I'm not trying to negotiate up to above what I was getting before. I'm saying I'm leaving there for a reason.
And what I'm telling you,
I want more than the starting amount, because I'm better than a brand new agent who's never closed a deal. I've closed deals before. I know the market. I know what I'm doing. So instead of the 65 that I was getting before, I want 60 to start out, and let's revisit and see if I can get back up to the 65 or 70 at some point once I show you that I can really close deals and knock out apartments for it.
Yeah, I understand completely what you're saying. What I'm just saying is if I'm too quick to hit your number, you may ask for more. And I see that happen all the time. I see agents go into negotiations, and because they're afraid to ask for what we typically ask for, which is 15%, they'll start with a month because they think somebody's going to say easily a month. And when we go a month, that person says, no, I want a no-fee apartment, or I'll give you $500.
Well, now we're starting to touch on one of my other points, which is negotiating with yourself.
Well, do you mean negotiating with yourself, like questioning what you're willing to take after deciding what you were willing to take?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's why I said I like that one a lot, because people get so. I'm looking at houses right now and thinking like how far away I would move, what area I would move, and how much I would spend. And looking at apartments before, I've set guidelines for what I want to spend, and end up it's a slippery slope because you go up $500 a month and you see what you can get, and then it's not quite the ideal, or it introduces a new ideal. Now I have to have a doorman, or now I have to have in-unit laundry, and then you start looking even harder, and you've already negotiated up your standards.
Yeah, which is why also, like, one of the other points I had is have the three numbers in your head of what are you going to ask for? Like, what's your dream? What is what you actually want? And what's your walk away? And so if you have those three numbers set in your mind ahead of time, then it's a lot easier to avoid negotiating with yourself, because you can say, I wasn't willing to pay more than $4,000 a month for this apartment. And so if they come back at 4,200 and you say, look, I can't do 4,200, I can do 4,000. And they say that 4,200 is the deal, then you walk away because you said 4,000 was my max. I will walk away.
Exactly.
But you might open with, I want to do 3,200. If your goal is 3,600 and your max that you're willing to settle for is 4,000, then when they offer, you say, I'm looking to spend about 3,200 on this place. And they say, well, we can't do that.
Let's just touch real quick on your second point, was negotiate and don't beg. Because at a certain point, you may have your heart set on something. And begging is basically you throwing your negotiation out the window, sometimes piece by piece. So it's throwing your standard, your low number, your walk number out the window, sometimes piece by piece, or your walk criteria out the window piece by piece, and you're just backtracking. And you're going to end up resenting that decision after you've made it, which is why you have to put, next point that you just segued into, you need your three numbers, the start number, which is typically the high number, your want number, which is what you ideally want, even though you're starting.
What you more realistically expect. You've got a dream.
Your
like if I say I'm willing to do 3,200 a month on this apartment, and they say done, you're like, all right, cool. But that's not the number that you're realistically expecting to happen. That's your open.
And then your walk number is the absolute. You're out the door.
Yep.
And I will say I'm guilty of, in the moment, negotiating with myself, which is also your next, your next point, which I think that two, 3, and 4 really are tied together. Negotiate, don't beg. Negotiate, don't beg. Have your numbers, your start number, your ideal number, and your walk number, and then don't negotiate with yourself. And I have a difficult time with that because I don't even negotiate when I'm on the consumer end. But on my end, I always work off of that emotion level. I get people to bend logic because of emotion. And at the end of the day, I think if you get what you want emotionally, you can self-justify the logic.
Well, and that's why if you have the numbers set, because emotion will be a killer to negotiation. And that's what good salesmen are able to exploit, is the emotional appeal that has no monetary value, but they can extract a monetary value for themselves from it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this. It's part of the thing. But if you want to negotiate, then you've got to know that that's going to be part of it. And having your numbers set in stone allows you to say, as much as I love this car, it's $3,000 more than I'm willing to spend.
I tell people all the time in negotiating, okay, I understand what you want. I can't do that. Good luck. I'm happy to find you something. And usually it's a price point. Somebody says, I want a one bedroom for $2,500 in Hell's Kitchen. And I'm like, well, I showed you 5 of them. We originally had a pool of 10. You sent me 3 or 4 by email. We went over those. They don't work for you. You either need to move into the Upper West Side or Harlem, where the price point's a little lower, or you need to spend more money, or you gotta decide on what I showed you.
Yeah.
We're looking at all the logical factors, and a lot of times people are saying, I'm not sure I want to keep looking. I said, not a problem. I'd love to keep showing you apartments. You love the one I showed you, and that was $2,700, $200 over your budget. Now, I know we're not going to be able to find anything that's like that, so let's just put that one aside. We've agreed that we're not going to find anything that fits your criteria exactly. So where do you want to go? Do you want to look at smaller apartments, or do you want to go to a cheaper neighborhood? And I just pivot on the two options that we have. And a lot of people are going to say, no, but I like that apartment. I only want to be there. Okay, then you have to spend more money, which you said you don't want to do.
Right. And so that's not really one of my tips or secrets for negotiating. That's just kind of part of the process of you need to be able to feel out what the other party has available and actually wants and what they can lay out.
Well, yeah, and we're on opposing
what you're doing
sides.
there is trying to figure out what is the important aspects to your potential client. And is it price? Is it location? Is it quality apartment? What are they flexible on and what are they firm on? And then use the firm part as the pivot.
So we're actually giving conflicting advice, because you're giving advice as a consumer and I'm giving advice as the salesperson, basically.
No, because the thing is, this advice works for either side.
Some of it does. Some of it definitely goes both ways. But what you're saying right now is your fifth point: identify their wants. Know what the other person's starting number. Know what they think is obnoxious, and they're going to shoot for it. Know what they ideally want, and know what they're going to walk on.
Well, it's really hard to know that because they're not going to tell you.
No, you're going to be able to sense it if you're good at reading that person. And
right.
That's why what I just said when I'm negotiating as the salesperson. I'm like, I understand that's what you want, but I know, if you can't do this because it's not perfect for what you're looking for, let's throw it away.
Yeah. So if I'm the apartment buyer, then you got to figure out, what's my walk away? Is it the location that I'm dead set on and I'm flexible on the price? Is it the price that I'm dead set on? Or do I need certain amenities? Or is it some combination there? Because then you can figure out what they're firm on and what they're going to walk away from. Mm-hmm. And then also, like, if I'm also the apartment buyer and like me knowing that you're a broker and you make a commission based on the rent or whatever, then like what I'm going to probably try and figure out is how flexible are you going to be on the fee? And if I say, look, if we can make this apartment happen at this price, you get the 15%, or like, I can say, look, that apartment's a little bit more out of my range, so I'll pay you the commission based on the $2,500 a month that I had in my budget. I'll Perfect. Pay the rent landlord, but I'll say I'll pay the commission based on what my original budget was. Instead of 15%, you get 11 or 12. That's how
I do that all the time. But it's coming to a meeting, and I'm the first one to bend the numbers. I want to bend the numbers. I don't want to go back out and show more apartments, because typically the options that I choose right off the bat are usually the best options. So it's actually going to be a more difficult sell showing other options, showing additional options. So
But that's why, like, understanding where the other party's coming from, because as a buyer, I know that you primarily are concerned with, you want to get an apartment sold as quickly as possible and you want your 15%. So if I can find a way of satisfying one or both of those things for you, then I can get you to work on the things that I care about.
All right. So explain this to me, what negotiating in bad faith is.
Basically, that's when you go into a negotiation making unreasonable demands, where you have to come in and make it seem like you actually want a deal and you're not there to waste somebody's time. If I walk into a Porsche dealership and see a brand new 911 that's listing at $100,000, and I walk up to the salesman like, I'll give you 35 for it, they're going to tell me to just leave them alone.
I get that all the time, and that drives me nuts.
Now you don't want to work with that person.
No, that's what a lot of people don't understand when it comes to landlords. And when we have right now I have a 2750 apartment. The girl wants to offer like 25, and I'm saying he's not gonna It's not gonna. He would rather hold your application on the back of his desk for 2 weeks and see what else comes along. When you're not going to get an answer right away. If you do, it's a no, and it's probably a no, fuck you. Or you're not going to get an answer. And right now, I actually have that happening. I have somebody that's got like a 590 credit score, and they applied in this apartment. And because the laws changed, they can't offer an extra month of security. And the landlord hasn't answered me. And the reason he hasn't answered me is because he's waiting for other applications to come in.
Yeah. But don't negotiate in bad faith is really just you need to treat the other person with respect. And if you go in with an unreasonable offer in either direction, then they're not going to even want to engage with you. If you're applying for a job and the job description says 60,000 and you go in asking for 100, it doesn't matter how good you are, you're not going to get the job because you made an unreasonable offer.
Well, yeah, that's unreal. Yeah, but I agree with kind of the sentiment in that bullet point. I think that's solid advice. Just be reasonable. Don't be a dick. And if somebody meets what you're asking, you commit. And when I negotiate, when I tell agents to negotiate, I tell them to get the agreement first. So say we're dealing with a $4,800 apartment and they want it for 46. Or let's say they take it at 48, but they don't want to pay a fee. And we already negotiated down to $7,500 fee. I will explain to the agent, before you come to me and ask me if I can do $6,800 on the fee. So you would say your client, the client agent conversation would be, let me see if I can get you a lower rate. And they come to me and they go, can you do 68? I'm like, ask them if they can do 68. Yes. Then the agent goes back to the client and says, he said he can do 68. What do you think?
That's the wrong way to phrase it.
I said, well, what I would do is I would tell the agent, ask your client, if I can get 68, does that work for you? And then they come to me with a confirmed agreement at 68. So
the way I look at it is like they've already negotiated. If the client has already said 68, then if I'm the agent and I come to you and say, hey man, can we do 68 instead of 75 or whatever? I'm gonna go back to the client and say, 6,800 is the deal. We can have it done today. I'm not going to give them an option to think about it. I'm going to say, look, this is where we're at. 60, like we agreed to 68. Here's the paperwork.
Yeah, but that needs to be agreed to by the client.
But if the 6,800 number is what the client gave me and you gave me the approval, I'm not going to ask them what they think. I'm not going to give them a chance to reconsider.
Well, here's what happens though. A lot of times the client won't give a number. And that's, a lot of times you just, we're talking about moving. It's not something people do on a regular basis. We're not negotiating a Gatorade in the park. We're not negotiating, things that are typically negotiable.
So if the client won't give a number, then I would force the client to give a number. I'd say that a $4,800 a month apartment comes to $57,600. 15% of that is $8,640, and you throw out the number and say that's your lead out. Your open is $8,600. You say, here's our fee, $8,600. They push back and they say, we don't want to pay that.
And then you say, what works?
Right.
Well, you get that number from the opposing party first.
Of course, yeah.
And
now they have to say something. Now they have to put out a number. And maybe they say 7,500. You would have been willing to take 68. But if they say 7,500, right. So you force them to put themselves in a position. But if you say 8,600 and they come back and they say, we were thinking more like 5,000. You say, that's a little too low for the work that's going into this apartment and all the things that we need to make it work. So but now you've got 86 versus 5,000, and you can say, okay, there's some work, there's room that we can work here. And then the 68 ends up being right about in the middle. But if they come back and say, I wasn't looking to spend more than like $2,000 as the broker fee or whatever.
And that's out the door.
Right.
Exactly.
Say, we're not even close. We're at 86. If you can't get closer to that, then I wish you the best of luck. And And I hope that you're able to find another broker in Lower Manhattan that's willing to work for you.
Well, but that's. I was thinking about this also when we started talking. If you go to your garage and you negotiate down the labor cost to next to nothing, that garage is not going to be. If they're a really good garage and they do solid work, they're not going to be in business very long. So salespeople can't just go super low for the sake of closing the deal and move on to the next, because that's how they actually make money.
Right.
A garage makes money off of fucking labor. Real estate agency makes money off of broker fees. It's not like, and I say this all the time, not like we sell sneakers out of the back of the office. We work on broker fees. And if you want our good service, you want our good customer service, you want our knowledgeable agents, I can't have them quitting after 2 months of doing this. They need to be compensated to bring up the value of agents in the city. I want good, if I'm looking for an apartment, I'm no longer a broker. I'm willing to pay if it's getting me good service. I could go with a $500 person from fucking Craigslist to move my apartment, but I would rather spend $2,500 for somebody who's going to pack things up and move it, and they're insured, and they're people that aren't going to steal my shit.
Right.
And I think that it's worth paying more for a solid service. And I get it. There's a lot of, me growing up, especially where we grew up, it's like you negotiate down to the fucking bare bones. You buy used and you buy broken and you fix, repair, and refurbish. I've lived in Manhattan long enough. I know you buy new, and you buy new with white glove delivery. But that's a Manhattan thing. Where I grew up, it's you buy used, and typically you buy used and broken, versus buying new and new with white glove delivery. Now in Manhattan, people are willing to pay for the white glove delivery, and I understand and respect that, and I understand my clients. When I worked for a rental car company, and I was getting people that were being flown to the city to give a talk and earn 6 figures for the talk, and I'm negotiating fucking car insurance with them or paying for a GPS, I just am like, you got this, and this. Does that work for you? Okay, perfect, sign here. Versus, I could sell you this for $6 extra a day. I could sell you this for $14 extra a day. I could sell you this, the gasoline package for $60 extra for. I change my negotiating tactics based on that person. So knowing who you're dealing with should also be another bullet point, I think. Which I think
that kind of
probably number one. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, knowing who you're dealing with when it comes to negotiating, and I was always, when it came to the rental car business, which it's bullshit when it comes to being a great business person, probably. But you learn transactionally. I had so many fucking transactions. I got to learn really, really fast. And I learned really fast to identify who you're dealing with. Do your best to identify who you're dealing with, which obviously is profiling, and shape your negotiation after that. But the person that comes in with a brand new pair of leather shoes that don't look like they're $40 shoes, that look like they're solid leather shoes, like that person's probably got a little bit more money. Or in some cases, it's going to be the cheapest bastard you deal with.
Yeah, but and that's where you kind of you have to tailor your negotiation and everything based on what the other party's giving you too. Like you can't be pig-headed in your approach, where if you're locked in solely on the numbers or whatever, obviously you walk away. But you have to kind of figure out, and we've been talking about this a lot, feel out what the other party wants and go from what they're giving you.
I agree. So look, I got a few people online right now. I want to ask if, because we're live on TikTok, we're live on Facebook, we're live on Instagram right now. I'm curious if anybody has any negotiating tactics, whether it's from TikTok or Facebook or Instagram. Anybody who wants to add any, or actually, I'm curious about some experiences negotiating, because I think that, probably I've gotten some crazy deals. James, our friend Scott gets like crazy deals on Craigslist buying restoration hardware, furniture, or different sports cars across the greater Northeast. If I needed to buy something on Craigslist, of significant value, I would go to him first. And that goes from somebody with 2 Porsches and an Audi sitting in his living room, in his living room,
on the 3rd floor.
in his garage, and he's living in a three floor townhouse, which is pretty cool. But he told me to come in his house over the weekend. He's like, oh yeah, I just got this air hockey table, which we love air hockey.
Yeah.
And then
we were in like third grade.
Exactly. So he just got an air hockey table, and he got some new furniture and a new chandelier. He'll get a $4,500 chandelier for $200 on Craigslist.
Well, and that's because you have to know what you're looking for.
And you know what you're looking for, also. Yeah, you got to time it. You got to time it right. But yeah, I'm curious if anybody's got any stories about a great deal you've gotten or negotiating tips. I got a handful of real estate agents that are watching us right now, so we're real estate enthusiasts.
Yeah. Well, let's see. The last one that we haven't really talked too much about is the use silence to your advantage.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
So the thing about being silent. Oh, somebody said hi from Lower East Side. That's pretty cool. Using silence it's in all the training that I write for this company. The ability to use silence to your advantage is insane in every aspect of your life. Even if it's just when you meet somebody, just pausing, smiling, making eye contact, or not making eye contact, not smiling, and just waiting. And typically, especially person to person, when you're in person, people get really uncomfortable when you're silent. You don't say anything. I think oftentimes interchanges between people is just a compensation, people compensating for being uncomfortable and compensating for the other person being uncomfortable. You don't want to make somebody else uncomfortable, so you say something so they don't feel uncomfortable. You don't want to be uncomfortable, so you say something so that you don't feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. And you pretty much nailed it. Where in a negotiation, if you can just shut up for a second, then the other party's going to have to start thinking, and they'll get uncomfortable, and they might spit out something that gives away the negotiation.
Do me a favor, just jump a little closer to your mic, because it's tough. It's tough to hear you through. I don't know where your mic.
Move.
All right.
Like right here, but all right. I'll repeat what I said.
Yeah, please.
In the middle of a negotiation or whatever, if you can just shut up and let the other party have to think about what's going on and make them get a little uncomfortable, they might end up spouting something off to break the tension that ends up giving away their position, and now you've got a different angle in the negotiation.
Yeah, well, that's because people will backtrack.
Yep.
And again, it's about them not knowing what's going on in your mind. And it's just a certain dynamic between people. And oddly, I teach this dynamic body language negotiating. It's actually in our handbook. Did you ever see our handbook, James?
Don't think so.
You got an 80-page sales handbook, which talks about literally like so many different aspects of this. I'm redoing it. It's probably going to be over 100 pages of just kind of bullshit. Like if you're into it, it'll be cool. If you're not into it, you're just going to put it down. But think about this. And when I give the training, I grab people in person and I explain to them body language and dynamic. And this is really cool because I can demonstrate, especially when I got a group of 5 or 6 girls and guys. What I'll do is I'll say, I want to explain to you guys body language. I'll have a girl stands up. I walk over to her. I stand in front of her for 2 or 3 seconds, an extended amount of time. We're roughly 2 feet apart, which is not that close, okay? And I say, thank you for that, but really I think a guy is better. Let me grab a different guy. And she doesn't feel comfortable. I realize it didn't work out, sits back down, grab the guy, and then I go about 2 feet chest to chest with the guy. And I say, do you feel comfortable right now? And he says, no. And then I turn to the girl and I said, at any point did you feel uncomfortable? And she says, no. I'm sorry, so I asked the guy, do you feel comfortable? The guy is very uncomfortable. Did I say that right?
The girl was comfortable, the guy was not.
The guy, yeah, do you feel comfortable? No. And then I turn to the girl, fuck, sorry. Maybe it's a scotch.
Yeah.
I turn to the girl, at any point, did you feel uncomfortable? And she says no. So the thing is, when you negotiate with a woman, man to woman, this is from a man's point of view, obviously, you can face a woman shoulder to shoulder, chest to chest. Roughly 2 feet. I think anything closer than 2 feet is a bit uncomfortable. And 2
I'd
feet.
say even 2 feet.
2 feet is really like right on the line. But you can be chest to chest, shoulder to shoulder. Whereas when
12 o'clock?
Yes, when you're negotiating with a guy, you need to be about 30 degrees off. And
Yeah,
it's
I call
really
it
weird.
the 2 o'clock rule.
It's really, it's crazy because I give that training. It's been a little while since I've given the training. I've been doing Zoom trainings lately, so it's tougher to do by Zoom, obviously, because I can't use that example. And it's tough to talk about the example and not demonstrate it, because when I demonstrate it, people are like, holy shit, like it's fully accurate. But you can't really, you can't do it on Zoom unless there's people in the room. But it's really true, and it's funny because I'm thinking about it now because I had a guy yesterday in the office, and he was trying to tell me something, and I kept turning, and he kept moving back in front of me, and then I turned the other way, and he moved back in front of me. And I know probably in his mind he was doing it because Justin gets this right really easy. Obviously, there's 1,000 people walking up to me any moment trying to ask me questions throughout the day. So if it looks like my attention is directed, my body language is directed somewhere else. But I think man to man, it's really maybe a threat. It's a threat issue. I don't know.
Well, I actually think that this applies more equally to men and women than you're giving credit for, because I've tried this out, where even if you're talking to a female as a male, and if you're 12 o'clock with her, it can feel more intense and more confrontational, even if it's not, even if it's just a conversation.
But I think it feels more
if you just break off the angle slightly and go, instead of approaching at 12 o'clock, approach at 2.
You're a guy. That's why. That's your perspective. That's not her perspective. That's what it is. You feel uncomfortable shoulder to shoulder, and guys do, because it's confrontational. Women just physiologically must deal with discomfort. They must deal with confrontation in body language a little more differently.
I wonder what the cause of that is. I'm not saying you're wrong.
So somebody asked a question. What do you do on a date when a guy is mirroring too much? Well, I don't know about being on a date where a guy is mirroring too much.
Well, what happened on the last date you went on with the dude?
Probably didn't know it was a date. No, definitely never been on a date with a dude. Even in that situation where I probably
mirroring too much, where like if she sits up, then he sits up. If she leans back, he leans back. If she puts her hands on the table,
so I will say, yeah, that's what they mean. But what I typically find is if you're aware of the dynamic, if you're aware of the comfortability level between you and the other person, this is really cool because I love playing with it. So say, for example, you're at a 2-top table, low top. So that means like a table where you're sitting on chairs where your feet touch the ground. That's a low top. And then 2-top means it's a small table that fits 2 people. And there's 2 chairs. So if you're at a table and you're with somebody who's leaning back and you're leaning in, you're demonstrating interest. They're not quite. But a lot of times if that other person moves forward, you then move backward. And it's really cool to be able to, especially if it's a small table, you can watch people all night long. I mean, I'm in Manhattan, so I see this every fucking time I go out to eat. I love watching people when I go out to eat. And like I could explain exactly who's into who's.
Oh yeah, just by watching the leaning,
you watch people lean forward and lean back and lean forward, or you watch people's body language. But when you're aware of it, you can really control it. Well, and you and I always talk about being on the spectrum, but I truly believe both of us probably are. I don't think anybody walks into a place and thinks about their behavior.
I tend to, but I think that's for reasons you just elucidated.
Yeah, but that's it. So,
well, let's answer her question, because I think let me just throw one idea out there immediately. Her question is,
that's a fucking a sport. Go ahead.
No, so her question is, what happens if you're a female and you're out on a date with a guy and he's doing too much mirroring? So I think your
Yeah.
question gives it away with too much. But I would say if he's mirroring you, then you obviously know he's interested. So you need to go and based on how you feel. Are you interested in him back or not? And if you're not, then you just cut it off. But if you are, then he's giving you the signals that he's interested, and then respond accordingly. Either like if you're aware of this, then I guess start mirroring his stuff. Show interest in some other way. But
Or if he's getting so much mirroring, which people do naturally, but if you believe it's too much, or you believe he's doing it on purpose, then you become disinterested.
Mhm.
And if you're aware of it, I think you should just play with it. Just
well, have fun with it. But
do some weird
I don't know.
shit. Like,
At,
just
at
do
some
some
point,
weird
you're just
shit.
gonna have to press eject. I'm guessing.
Yeah, get the fuck out of here. No, yeah, I definitely. I think if you are uncomfortable a lot in in-person interactions, then there are some really good tips that I have for you. I don't know how to articulate them. It's not a regular talking point for me these days, but I'd like to actually really open up, because dating is negotiating.
Yeah.
I was thinking, it's funny because I was watching a commercial last night for a new Netflix show where the guy leading the show was talking about meeting somebody who was starting. Go ahead. I was watching a Netflix commercial last night. I forget it's talking to this woman who just wrote a book about online dating. She signed up for Tinder, and she started to realize that Tinder had all of her data. And they started talking about online dating. But I've done a little online dating before. I think you could probably count in over a decade how many online dates that I've been on. But dating is definitely a strange thing. And when it comes to online, there's a lot more factors. Dating's not a natural thing. You don't hang out with strangers every day. You don't try to find out if somebody likes you every day. You don't dislike somebody who does like you and want to get away from them as soon as possible every day. So it's very unique. It's fucking weird. It's definitely weird. But I think I've never, when I do online dating, like I don't like to like flex that much. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of my competition does a lot of flexing, and I don't.
Yeah, it's a soft sell.
I want to be like, hi, my name's Dave. I make a median income, and I drive a Volvo. I also have a lab or a golden retriever. He has a generic golden retriever name, and just kind of see where it goes from there. But I don't want somebody that's interested in something else. I also don't want like a crazy dog person either.
Yeah, but I going on like touching back on her point about mirroring or whatever is like when I've had people ask me for advice on dating, not that I'm the best person to give it, but I've always kind of retreated back to the same formula, which is any successful interaction with someone that you're interested in a dating capacity follows the exact same formula, which is attraction, comfort, and close.
Let's not go too deep into that for right now, but I think that would be a really good future topic. Talking about dating, especially on SipTalk. I think a lot of dates are held over drinks.
But look, I'm just going to focus on the point that she's talking about mirroring. Is if like normally mirroring is a way for people to signal that they're comfortable with somebody else. But
yeah, mirroring. Sorry, I'm just repeating what you're saying some of these times because of the mic quality. But mirroring is a way of showing that you're comfortable with somebody else and making them feel comfortable as well.
Right. And so if she's picking up on the fact that this is happening or whatever, then it's being forced, and then she's not actually comfortable.
I agree. I think if you're aware that the other person is mirroring, unless you're looking for it directly, if you're aware that somebody else is mirroring, it's probably forced, or it's too much, or the person is a little off. And
Could be that too, but
they may not know it.
whatever the case is, if you're noticing something and you weren't actively looking for it, then it's generally a bad sign.
It's funny because I use dating a lot when it comes to training real estate agents, because I think for them, although I've been like the last year or 18 months maybe or so, I've been really careful talking about it because, like, I don't know, things are changing. I don't think dating is like a taboo subject, but fucking everything's taboo. So the one cool thing about being the owner of a company is like you kind of set the tone for the atmosphere. Also, people here are independent contractors, so like you can have a drink in the middle of the day, you can say fuck, and like you're not gonna get fired. Does that make sense?
Unless you're around a client, because they're still representing the company.
Well, yes, true. But I mean, that's kind of what the company is. I don't care if somebody uses a bad word, unless they're being mean to somebody, or you know, or the client is a bit prudish and not open to swear words. Oh shit, we just I don't know, one of the lives went away, so that's not cool. We're gonna share it, and it is live. So cool. Where's this? SipTalk 25. So yeah, we're hitting the kind of end of where I want to be.
Yeah, I think we've covered our bases for sure.
But yeah, well, I'd like to talk a little bit about how I relate dating to dealing with clients and dating to advertising, because especially when it comes to online dating, which I feel like almost everybody is familiar with these days. You know, everybody. It's not everybody. I don't think you do much of that, but online dating in 2020 is a really regular thing. When I was doing it back in 2012 or 2011, it wasn't necessarily
No, there's been a big shift in terms of its cultural acceptance.
Yeah, I mean, it's just everybody's online now. Back in 2011 and 12, you know, it was definitely a bit different.
It wasn't super outside the norm, but
Not back then, but it was becoming the norm.
Yeah, but it was still like if you were going out on an online date in 2011, people would probably be like, "Well, you can't just go out and meet people otherwise." Whereas now they're like, "Yeah, of course, like yeah, you met her on Bumble or Tinder or wherever." Like it's so much more expected now.
What's that? Online dating?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but so what I relate online dating to though is advertising. I talk about ads, and I also talk about like initial interchanges. Somebody says some shit to you that's weird. There's fucking 40,000 other options, especially in this. So, you know, why? So that's why you really got to pinpoint like a good opening phrase, especially when, you know, when you're dealing with a client. You have to understand what the opposing party, what for us real estate agents need to understand is what our consumer is expecting and looking for.
It's the same thing on a date. What are they
Same
expecting?
thing, you know, if you're on an online dating site and you're not off of the site relatively quick, unless you're there just to get laid left, right, and center. You know, if you're looking for a relationship and you're not finding luck, like let's reverse engineer this and figure out where the fuck you're fucking up. And same thing when it goes for advertising listings. If you're not getting lots of leads, like let's figure this out. Or if you are getting lots of leads but you're not closing a lot of deals, let's figure this out. You know, somebody just said I had to relearn dating. I joined Match, and this man didn't have an arm. I would date a girl without an arm. I think that's arm is that.
It's not a deal breaker.
I don't think it is. You know, the leg thing, you know, the reproductive parts. That's the important part, really, and the personality. But I just think, like, if I lost a leg or lost an arm, like, I wouldn't change that much. So when I think about somebody who has lost a leg or an arm, like, you know, their core personality hasn't changed that much. And if you look good in a bathing suit, yeah, you know.
If you lost a leg, you could finally hit that target weight.
If I lost a leg, I could hit that target weight. You are correct. Oh my God! Did I tell you I went for a run last week?
How'd that go?
Okay, it went okay. I just did 2 miles. Some of my slowest pace ever was a jog. I was trying to stay on my toes, the balls of my feet the whole time. And then I got a fucking blister on my left foot.
Because you hadn't run for like 3 months.
Because I haven't fucking run. I have like baby's feet. So yeah, it was a bad run, but it went all right. It wasn't fast. I did 2 miles, and then I just, I like to do along the water. So I run from the apartment down to the Hudson River, up a mile or so on the Hudson River, a little over a mile, and then I run about 3/4 mile back, and then I walk. Once I come back up on the city streets, I walk to the apartment. So it's 2 miles flat, and my foot felt all right, but then that day and afterwards, I was just fucking hobbling, and it was not a.
So the same injury came back.
Yeah, I mean, but now I'm thinking like it wasn't that bad. I mean, I was hobbling and I couldn't put any weight on it. But
all right.
I'm thinking like
it's not that bad.
That goes away after 3 or 4 days. Like today, I can kind of go heel toe. So
maybe just go to a doctor and get some orthotics.
Yeah, I'm gonna. If anybody's got a good podiatrist, let me know. All right, so we got some TikTok dating conversation going on here.
Oh, that really sparked the fire. What do the peoples want to know?
Oh boy. Okay, I joined once. I met him at an arm. I had to relearn dating. Oh my God, I dated a guy with no arm, and he got stuck in my SUV. Oh boy, he got stuck in the door. That's not good.
What? How?
I don't know. Maybe you could know, but maybe the child locks wrong.
You got one arm. Like the handles only require one.
All right, so that's a good question. You're on a date. Let's just touch on this.
Okay.
So you're on an app. Your profile pictures are like your bust. Okay. You don't have an arm. What's your obligation to tell somebody before the first date you don't have an arm? That's a good one, I think.
My argument is no obligation.
So you gotta wait. You get to meet that person in person, and then they discover you don't have an arm.
Yeah.
So you've duped them. You've already lied to them.
I would. Well,
relationships are based on trust, James. Come on.
I would try and make it so that my profile pictures don't hide it. I wouldn't like take a picture of just the stub, but at the same time, like
most of your pictures would be sideways, like that person with a lazy eye who's got sunglasses on and everything.
Lazy eye. Come on, that just means that they're good at multitasking.
I like a good lazy eye, yeah.
I say, like, that first of all, your profile pics should more or less accurately depict what you actually look like.
I agree.
So if you're missing an arm, then maybe instead of having a profile pic that cuts you off here, maybe have it so that like it cuts off here, so they can see.
But are you displaying your missing arm?
No, you're not displaying. You're not like just showing a picture of just the arm, but you're showing a picture from like your torso up.
So we're going to call missing arm a negative.
No, I'm not saying it's a negative or a positive, but it's something that maybe it's a deal breaker to somebody. I don't know. But why not just display who you are?
Superficial dating app where there's 40,000 other options. Missing arm's a negative.
More likely than not.
More likely than not. When you're in an apartment on a 6-story walk-up, more likely than not, the 5 flights up to get to that 6th floor is a negative.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
but just take accurate pictures of yourself, and then when you show up to the first date, you won't have any explaining to do.
Mr. Rob 43, a good place to look would be with me. Send me a message. But you are correct. You're not going to have any explaining to do. Or you're going to get less dates, and your pool is going to be a more shallow pool of people to call on for first dates.
Yeah, but you know what? Like, if you take accurate pictures, then you're already qualifying your dating pool. You're going to go
but
less
based
dates,
off the metrics,
but more fruitful dates.
Based off the metrics, you're really limiting your pool. So you might have somebody who, you got 70% of people turn away from you, and they match you up with women who 70% of guys turn away from. because that's how the metrics work. That's how.
No, that's not how it works.
Well, that's what this book was on this Netflix show. How basically exactly what that was.
No, it depends on which sites you're on.
But I also, yeah, somebody just made a comment. It depends on how that person feels who doesn't have an arm. And, you know, like I said, if I didn't have an arm, it wouldn't define me. I would still be me without an arm. Unless I wanted it to define me, and like it became a thing, and now I started giving like fucking TED Talks on being one armed.
Yeah, but still, I would say take accurate pictures, and you don't have to explain yourself. And yeah, I wouldn't advertise anything. I would just let people make their decisions, and that way, when I go on that first date or whatever, I don't have to like. I already know that like that's not something that I'm going to have to overcome. That's not an objection that I'm going to have to meet.
How about herpes?
I don't know.
That's my biggest thing.
You know what? Yeah, I think you got to disclose that before it becomes relevant.
Before it becomes relevant. All right. I don't know that much about herpes, but I actually know nothing about herpes. But if you have herpes, you probably know more than me. But you wouldn't throw that in your dating profile.
No, you're not going to put it in your dating profile, but it's something that needs to be disclosed before risks are taken.
True. Before risks are taken. Before it becomes relevant. First substantive contact.
Yeah.
I love that this TikTok conversation is going on about dating and somebody with no arm and herpes and somebody's looking for an apartment. That's exciting. So anything else you want to talk about negotiating?
No, we really covered all the things.
I know. I feel that we did a really good job rounding out negotiating. We didn't get too deep into tactics, but I think if you're an intelligent person, you can derive some tactics from kind of the outline we gave you of the factors that are involved with actually having an upper hand and negotiating well.
Well, if you take the stuff that we talked about, it'll kind of naturally lead you into the appropriate tactics.
Yeah, I think you don't have to even employ tactics if you're just doing things, you know.
If you follow these rules, yeah, you don't really need to use tactics because
Well,
you're not going to get taken advantage of because you know what your walk away point is. You're not going to negotiate against yourself because you know where you stand on all figures. You understand the market because you did the research. You know where the other person's coming from because you put yourself in their shoes. You're not negotiating in bad faith, so that way they're going to take you seriously. And
yeah, I agree. Yeah, no, we're on the same page. So anything you want to plug?
No, not really. Had a good day in the stock market today, though.
Yeah, there was some movement on the stock market today. Speaking of which,
I went up 8% on the day.
Yeah, where do you trade on? Anything I got to throw in the comments here for you?
Well, the main platform that I'm on is a competitor to your favorite, so I'm not going to plug it.
All right. Well, you hit me with that link, and we're going to get them on as affiliate. But I use Webull. I'm up about 250 today, which is cool. One of the agents here hooked me up, and he gave me some tips to buy some stocks. And so far today, I'm up about 250, 249 when I check. But it's with Webull. I throw the link in the YouTube video, so if you're watching, you can check my YouTube. It's one of the links. You get 2 free stocks up to $1,400, which I lucked out with the stocks.
What are the 2 stocks you got?
Dude, I don't know. I don't have any idea. I know that I dropped a couple $100 in there, and I've made a lot of money. So that's cool. I'm not even I don't know anything about this stuff. So
yeah, I was up probably about somewhere between $500 and $600 today. The problem is after hours, it's harder for me to be able to figure out what my actual take is because so many of my positions are hedged with options. So the options prices don't update after hours, even though the stock prices do. So I'll have a position which has a corresponding credit against it on the option that decays over time. So one of my positions was up a huge amount today, and the option cut into those losses, and so then the stock backed off, but the option hasn't updated yet. So it's hard for me to tell exactly what I was up, but I'm a huge fan of options.
Yeah. No, man, I just realized I got this goopy beauty filter on me. That's not cool, man. It's not
It's got his work cut out for it.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. I don't have any wrinkles. My head looks nice and smooth. I just realized that shit. I don't know where they have like normal weathered, got a lot of miles on it for the year type of filter.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the mood light going on.
That's an 80. Yeah, I know. But cool. No, I appreciate you taking part. And fuck, I didn't realize how dark it is here. No, it's been a dark day here in New York. It's kind of wild.
You guys got a little lick of the tropical storm, didn't you?
Yeah, so they were talking about tropical storm, winds. I didn't see shit. There were some people sending videos, shit flying off the buildings. We got rain for like an hour 15 last night. I slept with the windows open because I wanted to watch some lightning and hear some thunder and shit. Nothing last night, just a little bit of thunder and lightning early on. And then today we got some pretty hard rain. I opened the windows because I wanted to hear it and feel the severity. And it was kind of quick to come and go. And sun's out now. I mean, sun's going down, obviously, but I can see blue skies.
Yeah, we had it yesterday in Charleston, and it wasn't too bad at all. I've seen worse days for just normal thunderstorms pop in and out. Although after the tropical storm passed us, it happened right around sunset or whatever, and the sun happened to drop below the level of the clouds and illuminated the bottom of the clouds, and it was beautiful. It looked like a painting. That is
really cool. You getting any surfing in?
I would have loved to have gone this morning because the day after the storm, everything cleans up, but you still have the waves coming through, and It looked like it would have been really nice. But I had to work.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I spent 5 minutes looking at the surf cams, and man, I really should just go out there and make it up later on tonight.
Yeah, well, go for it. Still maybe, right?
I don't know. It's dark now, and I have to be at work tomorrow too. I was working from home today, so I could have gotten away with it, but
man, you bring your laptop down to the beach. You hook on that bar Wi-Fi. It's an idea.
It's a little late for that now, but I was disappointed. Every year, I hope for Charleston to get smacked with the strongest hurricane possible, and we've gotten a few decent ones, but nothing like what I've really wanted.
Probably good for property value.
I'm looking to buy property at some point, so I want a really solid hurricane.
That was my point.
Just knock things down a touch.
On that note, because we're dicks, I gotta go. We're hitting that hour. It's moonlight hour here, so.
Yeah, well, I feel like we definitely nailed all our topics, and I thought this one was solid. Finish.
I entirely agree. So thank you for joining. Thank you for joining, James. Thank you for joining.
Until Thursday.
I will catch up with you on the next episode.
All right.
See ya.
Cheers.
If you're watching this part, this is so cool you made it to the end. That's pretty badass. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day, out of your life to listen to this. If you are interested in any of the promo stuff we have, check it out in the comments, in the information below. And please comment, subscribe to this channel. And that's it. Enjoy the rest of your day.